You can feel it happening, can't you? A quiet dullness settling over society, a softening of the mind, a shrinking of attention, a generation slowly losing the ability to think, to question, to wonder, to understand. It's like watching a light fade inside the collective human psyche, a dimming that doesn't happen all at once, but moment by moment, scroll by scroll, click by click, emotion by emotion. We are witnessing the creation of the dumbest generation in history. Not because they are inherently less capable, but because they are being shaped, trained, engineered to become mentally fragile and intellectually hollow. It starts early. Children raised on endless screens, dopamine fed into their nervous system before they can form a memory. Teens conditioned to seek validation instead of identity. Adults addicted to distraction because silence feels unbearable. Each year producing minds less capable of depth and more addicted to stimulation. Our devices think for us. Our algorithms choose for us. Our emotions are manipulated for us. Our beliefs are curated for us. And slowly, almost invisibly, our mental muscles atrophy. Critical thinking becomes exhausting. Focus becomes impossible. Curiosity becomes rare. Wisdom becomes outdated. We drown in information but starve for meaning. We connect with everyone, yet understand no one. We consume relentlessly, yet learn nothing. It's not a coincidence. It's not an accident. It is a system, a psychological environment designed to produce minds that are obedient, impulsive, easily influenced, and incapable of deep thought. A generation too distracted to notice its own decline. Too overstimulated to feel its own emptiness, too overwhelmed to fight its own decay. But you're different. Something in you still resists the fog. Something in you still hungers for clarity. Something in you still aches for truth in a world that rewards ignorance. If you've felt that ache, if you've sensed this collapse in others, if you've watched the world becoming mentally thinner and wondered why, then don't look away. This is the beginning of a long descent, and you deserve to understand it. And if you're new here, and this kind of raw psychological breakdown is exactly the clarity you've been starving for, subscribe to Soulless so you never miss the truths the world tries to bury. Minds built on sand, not stone. Mitigation didn't begin with technology. It began with the weakening of the inner world, a slow erosion of the mental foundation that once allowed people to think independently, feel deeply, and understand themselves without needing constant external stimulation. What we see today, the impulsiveness, the emotional fragility, the attention span collapsing like wet paper, is only the final stage of a much older psychological decay. A decay rooted not in stupidity, but in the way society now builds its people. Minds used to be shaped by difficulty, by waiting, by boredom, by contemplation, by long conversations, by silence, by the slow unfolding of thought that sharpened the intellect and strengthened the emotional core. Today, that foundation is gone, replaced by speed, efficiency, instant gratification, never-ending stimulation. The mind is no longer built like a cathedral. It's built like a pop-up tent. Convenient, quick, disposable, and unable to withstand the slightest pressure. This generation is not unintelligent by nature. They're simply never given the chance to develop the inner structure that intelligence needs in order to grow. A strong mind requires weight, pressure, stillness, struggle, reflection. But everything in modern life removes these elements as if they are defects instead of necessities. Children learn to swipe before they learn to speak. Teens learn to perform before they learn to think. Adults learn to escape discomfort before they learn to master it. The result is predictable. A society full of people trained to avoid thought because thought is slow, effortful, and incompatible with dopamine-driven living. You can't build depth when everything rewards the surface. You can't build patience when everything offers immediacy. You can't build wisdom when everything encourages consumption. This is why the mind is collapsing. Not because people lack potential, but because potential never has the conditions to form itself. There's a psychological law rarely discussed today. The mind grows by what it resists. You grow attention by resisting distraction. You grow intelligence by resisting easy answers. You grow emotional stability by resisting impulsiveness. You grow wisdom by resisting the urge to react immediately. But modern society removes resistance. Everything is designed to give the mind no friction, no challenge, no stillness, no weight. People are drowning in hyperstimulation. They can't endure silence without reaching for a screen. They can't tolerate boredom without craving entertainment. They can't handle conversation without drifting mentally within seconds. When resistance disappears, growth disappears. This is how you create a mentally weak generation. Not by lowering intelligence, but by lowering the conditions required to build intelligence. Another cause of the collapse is the loss of inner narrative. Humans used to have inner lives, private worlds of imagination, thought, reflection, self-dialogue, and emotional processing. These inner worlds acted as psychological training grounds. They built memory, creativity, self-awareness, and depth. But now, the inner world is empty, replaced by an endless stream of external content, replaced by algorithms that feed people thoughts before they can generate their own, replaced by entertainment that fills every quiet moment with noise. People don't think anymore. They consume the thoughts of others and mistake that for thinking. This loss of inner narrative leads to an identity crisis. If your thoughts aren't yours, your opinions aren't yours, your preferences aren't yours, and your emotions are shaped by digital environments, then who are you? A shell, a surface, a consciousness without roots. And a mind without roots cannot grow upward. It collapses inward. But perhaps the most damaging factor is the destruction of attention. Attention is the foundation of intelligence itself. What you can focus on, you can understand. What you cannot focus on, you cannot learn, no matter how smart you are. Attention is not passive. It is a skill that must be trained like a muscle. But modern life fractures attention into shards so small they can barely hold an idea. People switch between apps, tabs, notifications, videos, and emotional responses hundreds of times per hour. This constant switching rewires the brain to expect novelty every few seconds. Depth becomes impossible. Reflection becomes painful. Thinking becomes exhausting. A generation raised on fractured attention cannot produce unified thought. This is not stupidity. It is fragmentation. A broken mirror cannot reflect reality clearly. A fragmented mind cannot understand reality deeply. And then there's emotional overstimulation. Stress, fear, anger, outrage. These emotions dominate the modern mind, not because the world is more dangerous, but because people consume fear as entertainment. We've built a culture where emotional chaos is the default state, and a mind in chaos cannot think clearly. When the nervous system is constantly activated, the brain shuts down its higher functions and reverts to survival mode. You cannot form insight when your system is in defense. You cannot form wisdom when your emotions never settle. You cannot form identity when your feelings shift hourly based on digital input. A generation overloaded emotionally will always appear stupid, not because they lack intelligence, but because their cognitive resources are hijacked by emotional storms. Finally, we must confront the role of convenience. Convenience destroys the mind by removing the need to think. GPS replaces navigation. Search engines replace memory. Recommendations replace curiosity. Short-form content replaces comprehension. Quick answers replace exploration. When everything is done for you, your brain stops doing anything for itself. Convenience is not comfort. It is captivity disguised as ease. A generation raised on convenience will always be mentally weaker than one raised on effort, because effort builds neurons. Effort builds awareness. Effort builds identity. Effort builds self-control. Effort builds character. We have removed effort from life and are shocked to find emptiness spreading. But emptiness is the natural outcome of a mind never given the chance to fill itself. So yes, we are creating the dumbest generation in history, not because they lack potential, but because society has engineered an environment where potential cannot survive. A mind cannot grow in a world designed to keep it sedated. A soul cannot deepen in a world built on avoidance. A generation cannot become wise in a culture built on distraction. But the collapse of intelligence is only the first layer. Things get darker, sharper, and more deliberate in the next stage. Machinery designed to keep us mentally weak. The decline of intelligence isn't accidental. It isn't random. It isn't an unfortunate side effect of technology or progress. It is engineered, structured, refined. A psychological ecosystem built with precision to ensure that most people never develop the inner strength required for independent thought. Weak minds are easier to manage, easier to influence, easier to distract, easier to divide. A population incapable of deep thinking is a population incapable of resistance. And once a society reaches that point, external control becomes almost effortless. This is the machinery we live inside. Not physical machinery, but psychological machinery. Invisible gears turning inside culture, shaping behavior, reshaping consciousness, and quietly dismantling the capacity for intelligence. You can feel this machinery everywhere. In the speed of life, in the emotional volatility of groups, in the shallowness of conversation, in the reaction-based nature of online platforms, in the inability of people to sit with anything uncomfortable for more than 3 seconds. It's not that people don't care. It's that they've been trained to be incapable of caring for long. Attention has been weaponized. Emotion has been exploited. Curiosity has been anesthetized. And over time, the psychological tools that built civilization have become the tools that dismantle it. What's left is a generation that can consume endlessly, but cannot contemplate deeply. And that didn't happen by mistake. The first gear in this machinery is the destruction of boredom. Boredom used to be the birthplace of creativity, reflection, and imagination. It forced the mind inward. It encouraged problem-solving. It demanded self-entertainment. It built patience. But today, boredom is eliminated the instant it appears. A swipe kills it. A scroll kills it. A notification kills it. People never sit in silence anymore. Never sit with their thoughts. Never enter the mental space where depth begins. By eliminating boredom, we eliminate the conditions that produce intelligence. The mind becomes reactive, not introspective. Dependent, not self-generating. The machine loves this, because a mind that cannot generate its own thoughts must consume thoughts created by others. The next gear is the illusion of choice. People believe they have infinite options, infinite media, infinite content, infinite opinions, infinite information. But these choices are curated, filtered, recommended, shaped by invisible hands that guide perception without needing explicit control. 1,000 videos, but only one narrative. 1,000 opinions, but only one acceptable framework. 1,000 distractions, but only one emotional outcome. Exhaustion. Choice is not freedom when every option leads to the same destination: mental sedation. The machine wins not by limiting choices, but by flooding you with so many that meaningful choice becomes impossible. The overwhelmed mind defaults to what is easiest: fast, simple, shallow. And shallow content creates shallow minds. Another gear is emotional overload. People today live in a constant state of neurological agitation. Every day brings new crises, new arguments, new outrage, new moral emergencies. A stream of emotional drama so relentless that the mind never enters rest. This is deliberate, because a mind in survival mode cannot think critically. Fight or flight drains cognitive resources. It narrows perception. It amplifies fear. It makes people seek security in familiar narratives rather than question those narratives. The machine does not need to convince people of anything. It only needs to keep them emotional. Emotion disables logic. Emotion amplifies conformity. Emotion drives impulsiveness. A population that feels too much cannot think enough. And when thinking collapses, manipulation becomes effortless. Another gear, perhaps the most subtle, is the commodification of attention. Every platform, every notification, every design choice is built to extract attention with the precision of a surgeon. You are not the customer. You are the product. Your emotional triggers are revenue streams. Your impulsiveness is monetized. Your distraction is profitable. Your outrage is rewarded. Why would any system encourage deep thought when shallow thought makes more money? The machine exploits the weakest parts of the psyche: the craving for stimulation, the fear of missing out, the desire for validation. And once these weaknesses become normalized, the mind never grows past them. The machine keeps people mentally young, children in adult bodies, incapable of self-regulation. This is not stupidity. This is manufactured helplessness. Then comes the algorithmic shepherding of behavior. People assume algorithms show them what they like, but algorithms shape what they like. They sculpt preferences. They guide identity. They curate emotional experience. The machine knows what will keep you watching, what will make you angry, what will hold your attention, what will drain your energy. And the more predictable your psychology becomes, the more profitable you are. This predictability requires one thing: the collapse of independent thinking. The machine cannot function if people think slowly, critically, philosophically, deeply. It needs reactive minds, emotional minds, impatient minds, stimulant-dependent minds. So it shapes an environment where those traits become normal. The next gear is cultural infantilization. Adults today behave more like children than ever before. Emotionally volatile, easily offended, unable to delay gratification, seeking constant entertainment, fearing discomfort. Society rewards childish traits: playfulness, spontaneity, consumption, dependency. It punishes adult traits: discipline, self-restraint, long-term thinking, moral responsibility. The machine thrives on psychological immaturity because mature minds cannot be controlled. A childish society is a compliant one. A generation unable to self-regulate must rely on external structures to regulate them. And once you rely on external structures, your freedom dissolves quietly. Not through force, through convenience. Then there is tribalism. The machine knows that intelligent individuals are dangerous when they are united, but harmless when they are divided. So it divides them emotionally, socially, ideologically, culturally. People now define themselves by which tribe they hate least, not by what they stand for, but by what they stand against. When identity is borrowed, thought becomes outsourced. Tribal minds do not question. They defend. They repeat. They obey. A person who identifies emotionally with a tribe loses the ability to think outside it. This is not stupidity. This is psychological captivity. And finally, the collapse of meaning. A society becomes mentally weak when it loses purpose. Humans can endure discomfort, sacrifice, even suffering as long as they understand why. But today, meaning is scarce. Everything feels hollow. Work feels empty. Relationships feel shallow. Community feels artificial. Life feels directionless. When people lack meaning, they seek stimulation to fill the void. But stimulation never satisfies. It only numbs. A numb population is a controlled population. Meaning creates strength. The absence of meaning creates dependence. Dependence on distraction. Dependence on authority. Dependence on systems that promise stability in exchange for thought. This is the machinery that shapes the modern mind. A machinery that does not require violence because softness is more effective. A machinery that does not require censorship because distraction accomplishes the same. A machinery that does not require oppression because comfort achieves the goal with far less resistance. The result? A generation unable to think deeply, unable to resist manipulation, unable to develop inner strength. But some people, like you, feel the machinery pressing on their mind and refuse to surrender. And in the next section, we explore what happens when a generation built on weakness must face the consequences of its own design. Obtainer drowning in its own weakness. Genie can only weaken a mind for so long before the consequences begin to surface. At first, the effects are subtle. A little more distraction here, a little less curiosity there, a growing impatience, a shrinking attention span, a creeping emotional volatility that people mistake for personality instead of damage. But then, something shifts. The weakness becomes visible. It begins shaping culture, It begins shaping relationships. It begins shaping identity itself. A generation conditioned to avoid depth inevitably becomes defined by its own hollowness. This is the world you see now. A world where emotional impulses replace rational thought, where opinions are formed in seconds and forgotten just as quickly, where outrage becomes entertainment and thinking becomes an inconvenience that fewer people are willing to endure. A generation weak in mind becomes a generation strong in reaction. And reaction, not reflection, is what defines the era we're living in. The first consequence is emotional fragility. People today break under pressures that previous generations would have considered trivial. Not because this generation is softer by nature, but because they're built on a foundation that has never been tested. Strength comes from struggle. Resilience comes from friction. Wisdom comes from adversity. But a generation raised on ease cannot tolerate discomfort. They panic when challenged. They interpret criticism as attack. They confuse disagreement with danger. They treat emotional discomfort as trauma. This fragility isn't natural. It's engineered. A mind never forced to endure discomfort will interpret every discomfort as a threat. And once everything becomes a threat, the mind collapses into fear. A fearful generation will always appear stupid, not because they lack intelligence, but because fear shuts down the parts of the brain responsible for logic, memory, and reflection. Fragile minds cannot think. They can only react. The next consequence is the collapse of identity. When a person's inner world is empty, they must borrow identity from the outside. They adopt labels, movements, aesthetic trends, political allegiances, social roles, anything that offers the illusion of a stable self. This generation doesn't discover who it is. It consumes identity like content. 1 month, they're this. Next month, they're that. Shifting, morphing, collapsing, reinventing themselves endlessly, not from growth, but from emptiness. Identity becomes performance. Personality becomes branding. Beliefs become accessories. Morals become aesthetics. Values become trending topics. When the inner self is hollow, the outer self becomes exaggerated. This is why so many young people display their identity loudly, not because they know who they are, but because they don't. Identity built on sand must be constantly announced to keep from disappearing. The machine loves this state. A person without identity is infinitely moldable. Another consequence is the inability to handle truth. Truth is heavy. Truth is uncomfortable. Truth requires self-reflection. Truth demands responsibility. A generation conditioned to avoid difficulty cannot bear the weight of truth. So they reject it. They attack it. They deny it. They reshape it into something softer, something more palatable, something that protects their comfort. Truth becomes offensive. Reality becomes optional. Facts become negotiable. People no longer ask, "Is it true?" They ask, "Does it make me uncomfortable?" And if the answer is yes, they discard the truth instead of expanding themselves. Stupidity is not the inability to know truth. It is the refusal to confront it. And we are living in an era where refusal is the norm. Then comes the collapse of attention. A generation raised on instant gratification cannot tolerate anything slow. Not books, not conversations, not introspection, not goals, not relationships. Everything must be fast. Fast entertainment, fast answers, fast success, fast validation, fast comfort. But nothing meaningful in life is fast. Depth takes time. Understanding takes time. Skill takes time. Wisdom takes time. When a generation cannot endure slowness, it cannot achieve greatness. The mind becomes restless, impatient, incapable of staying with a thought for more than a moment. And without the ability to sustain attention, intelligence withers. Not because intelligence disappears, but because attention is the gate that allows intelligence to operate. A distracted mind is not a weak mind. It is a mind whose strengths are permanently locked away. Another consequence is the rise of herd thinking. When individuals cannot think deeply, they default to the collective. They adopt group opinions. They follow trends. They echo narratives they do not understand. Herd thinking is not stupidity. It is psychological security. People follow the herd because the herd feels safe, because the herd relieves them of the burden of thinking, because the herd provides identity when they cannot form their own. This is why you see entire groups repeating phrases they cannot define, defending beliefs they have never questioned, attacking ideas they have never examined. Herd thinking replaces wisdom with emotional mimicry, and once the herd becomes the mind, stupidity becomes inevitable. Then comes the inability to form long-term goals. A generation addicted to stimulation cannot sustain focus long enough to build a future. Everything becomes short-term, momentary, immediate. Projects are abandoned, dreams are forgotten. Discipline is foreign. Consistency is painful. People begin to drift, not because they lack ambition, but because they lack the mental stability required to maintain direction. A drifting generation creates a drifting society, and drifting societies collapse. Not dramatically, but gradually, through 1,000 micro-decisions made by people too mentally weakened to think beyond the next moment. Finally, the consequence that no one wants to admit. A generation weakened mentally becomes dependent on authority. When people cannot self-regulate, they rely on institutions to regulate them. When people cannot think for themselves, they rely on narratives to think for them. When people cannot form identity, they rely on tribes to assign identity. When people cannot handle truth, they rely on curated truths that protect their emotions. When people cannot create meaning, they rely on external structures to give them purpose. Weakness creates dependency. Dependency creates control. A controlled population does not revolt, it complies. A generation unable to think is a generation unable to resist. And that is the true danger. Not stupidity itself, but the power vacuum stupidity creates. This is not the end of the collapse, only the middle. The deeper consequences are more subtle, more psychological, and far more destructive. Because what happens next is not just the weakening of the individual mind, but the weakening of the collective conscience that holds society together. The collapse of collective wisdom. Collective wisdom isn't built overnight. It forms slowly, generation after generation, through experience, memory, mistakes, traditions, stories, philosophy, and the quiet lessons passed from older minds to younger ones. It is the invisible backbone of every civilization. The unspoken intelligence that guides decisions, shapes morals, defines identity, and stabilizes society in times of chaos. But when a generation stops thinking, collective wisdom begins to rot. Not loudly, not violently, not with fire and destruction, but silently, in the emptiness of conversations, in the shallowness of values, in the impulsiveness of culture, in the erosion of meaning itself. This is the stage we're in now. A society where wisdom has been replaced with data, information, trends, and noise. A world overflowing with content, but starving for insight. The collapse doesn't look like chaos. It looks like entertainment. It looks like convenience. It looks like comfort. It looks like an entire population slowly forgetting how to be human. Collective wisdom dies the moment a generation stops listening to the old and starts worshiping the new. Wisdom used to be inherited, passed down in traditions, philosophies, books, stories, and hard-earned life lessons. But now, each generation believes it knows more than the one before it. Arrogance has replaced humility. Naivety has replaced experience. Distraction has replaced discipline. Young people no longer seek guidance from those who lived before them. They seek validation from those who are just as lost as they are. And when the blind lead the blind, wisdom disappears. Youth was never meant to guide civilization. Youth provides energy, but wisdom provides direction. Without direction, energy becomes chaos. That chaos is now our culture. Loud, fast, emotional, impulsive. A constant explosion of stimulation with no grounding intelligence behind it. Another piece of collective wisdom that has quietly died is long-term thinking. Civilizations survive because they plan for the future, because they act today with the awareness of tomorrow's consequences, because they make sacrifices so future generations can thrive. But this generation lives in the moment. Not the mindful, spiritual, present moment, but a compulsive, dopamine-driven obsession with the immediate. Everything is now. Everything is urgent. Everything is impulsive. Everything revolves around instant gratification. Long-term thinking requires patience. Patience requires discipline. Discipline requires maturity. A generation that matures mentally at 30 and emotionally at 40 cannot sustain long-term responsibility. The future becomes blurry because the present is overwhelming. Collective wisdom collapses when a society lives with the time horizon of a child. Then there is the death of nuance, one of the oldest pillars of wisdom. Wisdom recognizes complexity. Wisdom understands that truths can coexist. Wisdom knows that extremes are illusions. Wisdom sees the gray areas where real understanding lives. But modern society cannot tolerate nuance. It is too slow, too demanding, too subtle for minds conditioned to process the world in sound bites. Everything is now, good or evil, right or wrong, hero or villain, truth or lie. This binary thinking is not a sign of clarity, it is a sign of collapse. A society that cannot handle complexity will always choose oversimplified narratives. And oversimplified narratives create oversimplified minds. When nuance dies, wisdom dies with it. Collective wisdom also collapses when memory fades. Not memory of facts, memory of context. Memory of patterns, memory of mistakes, memory of consequences. Memory of what it took for society to reach this point. A generation flooded with information but empty of meaning begins to forget why values existed, why institutions mattered, why traditions survived, why rules were created, why certain ideas were protected. Without memory, everything becomes reinvented, poorly, blindly, ignorantly. History becomes a collection of data points instead of a living warning. And once memory dissolves, mistakes return. A civilization that forgets its past will inevitably repeat it, not because it is doomed, but because it is distracted. The next fracture in collective wisdom comes from the degradation of language. Language used to be a vessel for thought, philosophy, subtlety, intellect. It carried stories, expressed emotion, shaped identity, and allowed minds to share complexity. Now, language is shrinking. People speak in fragments, in emojis, in trends, in shortened sentences that mirror shortened thought. When language collapses, thought collapses. You cannot think deeply with shallow words. You cannot express complexity with simplified vocabulary. You cannot understand the world when your language is too weak to describe it. The destruction of language is the destruction of wisdom's foundation. A society that cannot articulate truth cannot preserve it. Next comes the death of silence. Silence used to be a source of reflection, creativity, self-awareness, and emotional regulation. It gave wisdom room to breathe. But now, silence feels uncomfortable, even terrifying. People fill every second with noise, stimulation, distraction, anything to avoid meeting themselves. A mind that cannot endure silence cannot grow, cannot reflect, cannot self-correct, cannot gain insight. Without silence, wisdom evaporates. A generation addicted to noise will always drown in its own thoughts. Another pillar of collective wisdom that has collapsed is mentorship. Older generations used to guide the younger, not through lectures, but through presence, experience, and earned understanding. But now, elders are dismissed as outdated, irrelevant, unaware. The wisdom of age has been replaced with the arrogance of youth. Instead of learning from those who have lived life, young people learn from influencers who perform life. Mentorship collapses, and with it, the transfer of wisdom. Knowledge becomes shallow, experience becomes trivial. Age becomes a disadvantage instead of a resource. A society that stops honoring its elders loses its anchor. It floats aimlessly in emotional waters too unstable to sustain it. Then comes the final fracture, the replacement of truth with manufactured reality. When intelligence weakens, reality becomes a matter of preference. People choose their truth instead of discovering it. They construct meaning artificially instead of earning it through experience. They build identities on narratives fed to them instead of creating identities through observation and self-awareness. This is the ultimate sign that collective wisdom has died. When truth becomes optional, nothing real remains. A generation that decides what reality should be, instead of learning what reality is, will inevitably descend into intellectual chaos. This is how you destroy a society without violence. You kill its wisdom. You erase its memory. You fragment its attention. You infantilize its population. You weaken its language. You accelerate its emotions. You distract its mind. You deceive its identity. Then you watch it collapse under the weight of its own ignorance. But here's the thing about wisdom. Even when collective wisdom dies, it doesn't vanish entirely. It retreats. It hides. It goes underground. It moves into individuals who refuse to be shaped by the decay around them. People like you. Those who feel the collapse but don't succumb to it. Those who sense the emptiness but refuse to hollow themselves out. Those who still think, still question, still observe, still search. Collective wisdom may be dying, but individual wisdom is awakening. And that shift, that psychological migration, is what we explore in the next section. The rise of the outsider mind. Every time a society collapses into ignorance, there emerges a strange counterforce. A group of individuals who feel dislocated, misaligned, out of step with the world around them. They are not smarter by accident or gifted by luck. They are simply the ones who cannot be absorbed by the cultural machinery of stupidity. They resist without meaning to. They think even when thinking is punished. They observe even when observation is lonely. They remember even when society forgets. They feel the weight of truth even when everyone else is numb. These are the outsider minds, the ones who do not collapse when the world collapses around them, the ones who carry the remnants of collective wisdom without knowing it, and in times like ours, they begin to awaken. The outsider mind begins life feeling wrong, not morally wrong, but misaligned, as though they were built for a world that doesn't exist anymore. They notice things others ignore. They ask questions others avoid. They see patterns others can't detect. They feel reality before they can explain it. Growing up, they often feel isolated, not because they dislike people, but because people operate on a wavelength that feels shallow, fast, performative, insincere. It's like watching a conversation move at the speed of instinct when your mind moves at the speed of awareness. Even as children, they sense the absurdity of the world around them, the contradictions, the hypocrisy, the artificiality. While other kids are entertained, they're observing. While others adopt trends, they question them. While others seek approval, they seek understanding. This difference is not a flaw, it is the seed of awakening. As the world grows weaker intellectually, the outsider mind grows stronger, not out of pride, but out of necessity. When the environment collapses, the organism adapts. When society loses depth, the individual must grow deeper. When culture becomes superficial, the soul must grow sharper to stay alive. This sharpening is rarely pleasant. It is not a gift, it is a burden. Because the first stage of awakening is always alienation. The outsider mind feels like they are watching society from behind a glass wall. They see the rise of stupidity long before others do, the collapse of conversation, the erosion of curiosity, the death of patience, the triumph of impulsiveness. And they cannot understand how others don't see it. But this confusion is not madness, it is clarity. The outsider mind carries traits that resist societal decay. They cannot fully integrate into a world built on superficiality. They cannot pretend ignorance even when ignorance is rewarded. They cannot silence their awareness even when truth is inconvenient. When others seek distraction, they seek meaning. When others seek validation, they seek alignment. When others seek entertainment, they seek understanding. This is why outsider minds often feel older than their peers, not in age, in perception. They see the world from a higher vantage point because they are not completely absorbed in the noise below. And as collective wisdom collapses, these individuals become the carriers of the last remaining sparks of intelligence, integrity, and insight. Not because they choose to be, because they cannot be anything else. Another defining trait of the outsider mind is their intolerance for illusion. Most people live comfortably inside collective fantasies. They accept the narratives fed to them by media, culture, and emotional contagion. But the outsider mind feels physical discomfort in the presence of lies, even unintentional lies, even comforting lies, even socially acceptable lies. This intolerance isn't moral superiority. The awakened mind breaks from the collective. There comes a point in the outsider's evolution where observation is no longer enough, where awareness becomes too large to fit inside the confines of a collapsing society, where the mind that once stood quietly at the edges begins to outgrow the entire structure it was born into. This is the moment the outsider becomes awakened. Not woke, not enlightened, not spiritually branded with some artificial identity, but awakened in the raw, uncomfortable, irreversible sense. Awakening is not a gentle rising. It is a breaking, a rupture in the psyche, where the illusion that once held the world together falls apart like brittle glass. It's not pretty. It's not peaceful. It's not poetic. It is violent in the way truth must be violent to shatter the things you were never meant to carry. The awakened mind doesn't wake up one morning feeling superior. It wakes up feeling alien, stripped of old beliefs, detached from collective narratives, and unable to return to the mental simplicity it once took for granted. Awakening is the death of your former self, and the birth of someone the world is not equipped to handle. The first fracture of awakening is the collapse of inherited identity. Everything you once believed defined you, your social role, your cultural expectations, your belief systems, your aspirational goals, all begin to look manufactured. Not false, but borrowed. Not wrong, but unexamined. Not malicious, but unconscious. You begin to feel that your life was constructed for you, not by you. You see how much of your identity was shaped by external forces, family expectations, societal pressures, ideological tribes, digital algorithms. The outsider mind doesn't just notice this, they break from it. They reject every part of themselves that was created by unconscious imitation. What remains is painful. It feels empty, like walking into an abandoned building that once felt like home. But this emptiness is not a void. It is a clearing where the real self can finally begin to take shape. The next rupture is the collapse of emotional programming. Most people feel automatically. Stimulus, reaction. Trigger, response. Event, emotion. It is predictable. It is linear. It is unconscious. But the awakened mind begins to notice the machinery behind emotion. They see how much of their suffering was not created by reality, but by interpretation. How much of their pain was inherited? How much of their reactions were conditioned? They begin dissecting their own emotions with a surgical precision that scares people around them. Not because they are cold, but because they refuse to be slaves to impulses the world planted in them. Once you see your emotional patterns as constructs, they lose their power. This is disturbing to those who remain controlled by them. A calm person in a world addicted to hysteria looks dangerous. An emotionally sovereign person looks unpredictable. An awakened person looks ungovernable. And that perception is not entirely wrong. Then the mind breaks from the collective narrative. Every society runs on stories. Stories about morality, success, identity, purpose, progress. These stories are not neutral. They are structures of control. They set the boundaries of acceptable thought. They define what is normal, what is admirable, what is forbidden. Most people accept these stories as reality, but the awakened mind sees them as constructs, useful at times, dangerous at others. They see how narratives shape behavior, how narratives manipulate emotion, how narratives create conformity, how narratives kill dissent. What others call truth, the awakened mind recognizes as psychological architecture. This realization is catastrophic, because once you stop believing the story, you stop belonging to the world that requires it. Belonging dissolves. Comfort dissolves. Illusion dissolves. But so does fear. When you no longer rely on narratives to define your reality, your mind becomes unshakable. A deeper shift follows: the rejection of unconscious consumption. The awakened mind stops absorbing stimulation blindly. They stop scrolling out of habit. They stop watching content mindlessly. They stop engaging in conversations that drain their mind. They stop sharing the mental space with noise that weakens them. They become gatekeepers of their own minds. This disturbs people because the awakened begin opting out of cultural participation. They don't watch what everyone watches. They don't speak how everyone speaks. They don't follow what everyone follows. They don't believe what everyone believes. The awakened mind becomes selective to the point where society calls them detached, quiet, distant, strange, or even antisocial. But this is not withdrawal. It is filtration. A filtration that protects the mind from the flood of stupidity that society has normalized. As the awakening deepens, something unexpected happens. The awakened begin seeing consequences before others see causes. Their perception stretches, their intuition sharpens, their understanding becomes nonlinear. They start predicting outcomes not through logic alone, but through pattern recognition. They feel the direction of events before they unfold. They sense the energy of people before they reveal themselves. This is not mysticism. It is heightened awareness. A mind no longer clouded by distraction finally becomes capable of processing reality accurately. And reality, when seen clearly, is predictable. This foresight further isolates the awakened because people fear those who see too much. They fear the person who notices the shift in tone before the argument begins, who sees the manipulation behind the comforting narrative, who recognizes the collapsing trend before the crowd abandons it, who senses the truth before it becomes obvious. Awakening is not just clarity, it is foresight. And foresight is a threat to systems built on ignorance. Eventually, the awakened mind reaches the point of detachment. Not apathy, not nihilism. Detachment. A state where you stop seeking approval because you no longer require validation to stabilize your identity. A state where you stop performing because performance is a prison. A state where you stop explaining because understanding is not owed. A state where you stop defending yourself because truth does not need defense. This detachment is unnerving to the collective. People don't know how to relate to someone who is free. Freedom looks like rebellion to those who are captive. But the awakened aren't rebelling. They're simply living inwardly in a society that lives outwardly. They're anchored in a world built on drifting. They're awake in a world half asleep. They're whole in a world fractured. But the final transformation is psychological sovereignty. The moment when the awakened mind no longer reacts to the world, but responds from an inner center that cannot be shaken. You become a psychological entity that the collective cannot absorb. You become immune to the emotional storms of society. You become grounded in a way that terrifies people who need chaos to feel alive. This sovereignty changes your reality, not metaphorically, but literally. Your perception sharpens. Your decisions improve. Your relationships filter themselves. Your purpose emerges. Your mind stabilizes. Your life simplifies. Your energy deepens. Awakening becomes not a moment, but a state the world cannot give you and cannot take away. But there is still one more step, a transformation deeper than awakening, more permanent, more defining. The moment when awakening stops being something you feel and becomes something you are. The mind that no longer returns to sleep. There is a turning point in every awakening, a moment where the shift stops feeling temporary and begins to crystallize into something permanent. A moment where you realize you can't go back to who you were, even if you tried. Not because you're running away from your old life, but because your old life can no longer contain the person you've become. This is the moment the awakened mind crosses a psychological threshold. Not a gentle transition, but a final severing from the unconscious world it once lived in. People imagine awakening as a burst of clarity, a flash of enlightenment, a transcendent realization. But the deepest awakening feels more like settling, as if something inside you finally takes its rightful seat, stops wandering, stops negotiating, and says, "I'm here now. This is who we are." That inner grounding is irreversible. The first sign of this permanence is the silence that forms inside you. A silence that no longer feels empty or frightening or awkward. It feels like home. Before awakening, the mind was a battlefield, thoughts crashing into each other, emotions spilling over, memories resurfacing without permission, fears whispering in the background. But now the inner world shifts. It becomes ordered, centered, aware. Not because the mind becomes perfect, but because it becomes aligned. The noise doesn't disappear, you simply stop identifying with it. Thoughts come and go, but they don't grab you. Emotions rise and fall, but they don't drown you. Triggers appear, but they don't hijack your identity. You watch everything from a deeper vantage point, a quiet, stable awareness that cannot be moved. This is the mind that no longer returns to sleep. Another sign of irreversible awakening is the detachment from collective emotion. Before awakening, you absorbed everything: the moods of people around you, the anxieties of society, the emotional atmospheres of relationships and environments. But now, something subtle changes. You no longer merge with the emotional weather of others. You observe it, you understand it, but you don't become it. People may panic, but you remain steady. People may rage, but you remain grounded. People may react, but you choose to respond. This detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. You feel more, not less, but you feel from a center instead of from chaos. And people notice. Some will be drawn to you because your presence feels like stability in a world full of turbulence. Others will resent you because your calmness reveals their instability. But either way, you do not bend to collective waves anymore. You've become your own anchor. The next shift is more internal: the death of compulsive identity. Before awakening, you clung to identities to feel secure. Roles, labels, aspirations, narratives. A sense of self built from the outside in. But awakening strips this dependence away. You stop needing an identity to feel like someone. You stop needing labels to explain yourself to others. You stop needing validation to confirm your existence. You become fluid, unfixed, open, not scattered, but boundless. The ego doesn't disappear, it just stops being your master. It becomes a tool instead of a prison, a costume instead of a cage. You can play any role without becoming it. You can hold any belief without clinging to it. You can shift, evolve, change without losing yourself. Because the self is no longer something you perform, it's something you are. Another profound shift is the end of unconscious suffering. This doesn't mean pain disappears. Pain is part of life. But suffering, the repetitive, cyclical, self-created kind, loses its grip. You no longer replay the same wounds. You no longer spiral into the same fears. You no longer fall into the same emotional traps. Not because life becomes easier, but because awareness dissolves illusions. When pain arises, you meet it. You understand it. You allow it. You learn from it. You release it. Suffering thrives in resistance. Awakening ends resistance, so suffering cannot sustain its momentum. This terrifies the unconscious mind, the mind that clings to pain as a form of identity. But for the awakened, pain becomes a teacher instead of a jailer. You don't live painlessly, you live consciously, and consciousness transforms everything. Then comes one of the rarest shifts, the disappearance of fear as a controlling force. Fear no longer dictates your decisions. Fear no longer shapes your identity. Fear no longer silences your truth. Fear no longer pulls you back into old versions of yourself. It still exists, but it becomes small, transparent, honest. You see through fear instead of collapsing under it. You live from a deeper intelligence than survival. This creates confidence that people misinterpret as arrogance, but it's not arrogance. It's self-possession. The awakened mind belongs to itself. And nothing is more threatening to a society built on insecurity than a person who no longer needs permission to exist. Another irreversible shift is the transformation of perception. You begin to see meaning where others see coincidence. You see patterns where others see chaos. You see connections others overlook. Not because you're imagining things, but because your awareness is no longer limited by distraction and conditioning. The world becomes readable. People become transparent. Motives become visible. The future becomes predictable through patterns alone. This is why awakened individuals often feel years ahead of their environment. They're not fortune tellers, they're deeply perceptive. Awakening is enhanced cognition, not magic. Another permanent change is that solitude becomes nourishment. Before awakening, being alone felt uncomfortable. It triggered insecurity, fear, boredom. But after awakening, solitude becomes a sanctuary. A space where your mind expands naturally, where insights arise effortlessly, where your inner world feels richer than the external one. You begin to crave solitude as the environment where clarity grows. You become protective of your time, your energy, your attention. Not from superiority, but from understanding how fragile the awakened state can be when exposed to unconscious noise. And once you taste the nourishment of solitude, you never return to the desperation of constant company. You choose company now. You don't seek it. That choice is liberation. But perhaps the greatest marker of irreversible awakening is this. You begin shaping reality instead of being shaped by it. Your thoughts become intentional. Your decisions become aligned. Your boundaries become firm. Your relationships shift to match your inner frequency. Your life rearranges itself to match your awareness. The awakened mind is not a passive observer. It is a creator, a sculptor of meaning, a generator of direction. People often fear this power because they've never experienced their own agency fully awakened. But once the mind wakes up, reality stops being accidental. You think differently, so you act differently, so you live differently. And nothing is the same after that. This is why awakening is irreversible. Not because the mind refuses to sleep, but because sleep becomes impossible after experiencing consciousness. You don't return to the old self. You don't return to unconscious patterns. You don't return to shallow thinking. You don't return to emotional chaos. You don't return to collective delusion. Awakening is a psychological point of no return. Once you step through, the only path left is forward, into clarity, into sovereignty, into awareness, into truth. The mind that has awakened cannot forget what it now knows, and life itself begins to respond to the new version of you. You become the exception in a society built on conformity, the clarity in a world built on confusion, the intelligence in a culture that normalizes stupidity, the depth in a generation addicted to the surface. You become a force that reality must adapt to, not the other way around. Awakening does not make you special, it makes you responsible. Because once the mind wakes up, you become the guardian of the intelligence the world has forgotten. And that responsibility is the beginning of your true life. The return of the inner authority. Awakening is often spoken about as if it's a sudden illumination, a burst of spiritual light, a revelation, a moment of clarity that washes away pain. But the real transformation is something quieter, deeper, more unsettling. It is the slow realization that everything you were taught to depend on, every narrative, every structure, every authority, every measure of worth, was shaping you into someone you were never meant to become. Awakening doesn't hand you a new life. It hands you the responsibility to build one. This responsibility is what separates the awakened from the ones who merely glimpse awakening and then retreat into comfort. Because once awareness settles into your bones, you can no longer betray yourself without feeling it like a fracture. You can no longer silence truth without feeling it burn. You can no longer play small without feeling something inside you break a little each time. The final transformation is not about becoming more knowledgeable, more spiritual, more emotionally enlightened. It's about reclaiming something you didn't even know you lost. Your inner authority. This inner authority is not the voice of ego or pride or rebellion. It is the quiet, steady presence within you that knows the path long before your mind understands it. It's the stillness beneath all the noise, the clarity beneath all the confusion, the truth beneath all the conditioning. When you reconnect with it, your life stops feeling accidental. Your choices stop feeling reactive. Your direction stops feeling foggy. You begin to act from a place that feels older than your memories, truer than your beliefs, deeper than your fears. This is what the collapse of society accidentally awakens in certain people. While most become weaker, a few begin to return to their original power. The world tries to shape them, but the awakened reshape themselves. The transformation becomes visible in the way you carry yourself. Your energy stabilizes. Your emotions stop overflowing or collapsing inward. Your attention becomes precise. Your perception sharpens. Your decisions feel deliberate, intentional, aligned. People notice the change even before you do. They sense it in the way you listen, the way you observe, the way you respond instead of react, the way you don't chase validation like everyone else does. Some admire it, some resent it, some are intimidated by it, some are awakened by it. But no one forgets it. Because in a world where everyone has lost their center, a centered person feels like a threat or a miracle. Maybe both. You also begin to feel a strange sense of distance from your old life, not because it was wrong, but because it was small. Your past self feels like a room you have outgrown. You can visit it, you can respect it, but you can't live there anymore. The people you once tried to impress no longer feel like judges. The expectations you once chased no longer feel binding. The fears you once bowed to no longer feel real. You look back and realize you were living inside a cage with an open door. And now that you've stepped out, the idea of returning makes your soul recoil. This is the moment your transformation becomes permanent. The moment you stop negotiating with your truth. But the most profound shift happens internally, in your relationship with yourself. Before awakening, your mind was a battlefield. Your emotions were unpredictable storms. Your inner critic was loud. Your confidence fragile. Your values borrowed. Your identity patchworked from other people's expectations. But now, your inner world reorganizes. It becomes coherent, like a symphony finally learning its own melody. Self-trust begins to grow, not the loud, motivational kind, but a quiet, steady reliance on your own perception, your own intelligence, your own intuition. You stop abandoning yourself in moments of doubt. You stop betraying your needs to meet external demands. You stop shrinking your truth to fit into someone else's comfort. This is the part of the transformation people rarely talk about. The emotional adulthood that emerges when awareness settles. You no longer ask, "Who will guide me?" You ask, "What do I know deep down that I've been afraid to honor?" That question changes everything. And then comes the peace. Not the peace of relaxation or escape, but the peace of alignment. A peace that comes from walking in the direction your soul recognizes. A peace that strengthens you instead of sedating you. A peace that makes life feel not easier, but truer. This peace cannot be bought, taught, or performed. It is the natural state of a mind that has come home to itself. You begin to create boundaries easily because your energy matters. You let go of people because your truth matters. You choose solitude because your clarity matters. You walk away from chaos because your peace matters. You become selective, not out of superiority, but out of self-respect. You finally learned that your life is shaped not by what you chase, but by what you choose not to allow. This realization is the foundation of sovereignty. The final transformation is not ascension, it is embodiment. You become the awareness you once reached for. You become the clarity you once sought. You become the strength you once admired. You become the person your younger self needed. You carry wisdom without forcing it. You offer presence without performing it. You move through life with a quiet assurance that others feel, even if they can't explain why. You're not trying to prove anything because your existence is no longer a performance. You have become real in a world addicted to illusions. And now you face the final question, the one that determines how you will walk forward from this point on.